My SIL asked if my baby was really my husband's at dinner. I asked if hers was really her husband's. The question came out of nowhere during Sunday dinner at my mother-in-law's house. I was bouncing my 6-month-old son Mason on my lap when my sister-in-law Jessica leaned across the table with this weird smile. "So Claire, is Mason really Nick's baby? He doesn't look anything like him." The entire table went silent. Nick nearly choked on his mashed potatoes. My mother-in-law, Patricia, dropped her fork. But I just looked right back at Jessica and said, "That's funny. I was wondering the same thing about Emma. Is she really Tom's?" Jessica's face went white. Her husband Tom, who'd been cutting Emma's chicken into tiny pieces, froze completely. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. But here's the thing. I wasn't just throwing her question back at her to be petty. I'd been wondering about Emma for months, ever since I started noticing things that didn't add up. Emma was supposedly born in March, which would make her conception sometime in June last year. But I distinctly remembered Jessica posting vacation photos from her girls' trip to Cabo in late June, where she was definitely drinking cocktails and looking completely flat in a bikini. Then there was Emma's appearance. Tom had bright red hair and pale skin covered in freckles. Jessica was brunette with olive skin. But Emma had platinum blonde hair and these striking blue eyes that neither parent possessed. When people commented on it, Jessica would laugh and say babies change. But Emma was 8 months old now. I'd also noticed Jessica's weird behavior during the pregnancy. She'd skip family gatherings for months, claiming morning sickness, but then post photos of herself at restaurants and parties. When she finally started showing, it seemed to happen overnight around month 7. The strangest thing was how secretive she became about doctor appointments. With my pregnancy, I'd shared every ultrasound photo and milestone. Jessica refused to share pictures, said the doctor's office had privacy policies about images, which I knew wasn't true. At Emma's baby shower, Jessica's college roommate Michelle let something slip. She mentioned how lucky Jessica was that everything worked out with the timing. When I asked what she meant, Michelle got flustered and changed the subject quickly. After dinner, while the men were watching football, I cornered Jessica in the kitchen. She was loading the dishwasher with shaky hands, avoiding eye contact. "That was quite an accusation you made about Mason," I said casually. "I was just joking," she mumbled, but her voice sounded strained. "Were you? Because I've been thinking about your comment, and about Emma's timeline." Jessica slammed the dishwasher door shut and spun around. "What's that supposed to mean?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled to her Instagram from last June. This photo of you in Cabo. June 25th. Margaritas and that tiny white bikini. If Emma was conceived in June like you claim, you would have been pregnant here. Jessica stared at the photo, her face getting redder. "Maybe I conceived later. Maybe. Or maybe Emma isn't Tom's biological daughter, and you're projecting your own guilt onto me and Nick." The color drained from her face completely. Her hands started trembling as she gripped the kitchen counter. "I don't know what you're trying to imply, Claire." I leaned in closer. "I'm not implying anything, Jessica. I'm saying exactly what I discovered when I did the math on Emma's real conception date and cross-referenced it with Tom's business trips last year. And that's when I told her whose baby Emma really was." Jessica stares at me, her face ashen. The kitchen feels too small suddenly, the air thick with tension. "What are you talking about?" she whispers, but her voice trembles. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. "I'm talking about David from your marketing department," I say calmly, watching her eyes widen. Tall guy, blonde hair, blue eyes, just like Emma's. Jessica's hand flies to her mouth. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? Let me lay it out for you, Jessica. Last year, Tom was away on business trips to Chicago almost every other week, from May through July. And during that same period, you were working late on that big campaign with David. The timeline fits perfectly." "You're delusional," Jessica hisses, but her eyes dart nervously toward the doorway. "This is insane. You're making wild accusations because I asked one question about Mason. The difference is Mason looks exactly like Nick's baby pictures. Emma, on the other hand." I let the sentence hang between us. I pull out my phone again and swipe to a different screen. "I have the receipts, Jessica, literally. You weren't as careful as you thought." Her eyes widen as I show her the email I'd found. A hotel confirmation from the Westlake Hotel downtown, booked under David's name on June 18th last year. I discovered it when Jessica had asked me to help her find an old email about Emma's pediatrician. She'd left her account logged in on my laptop. "That doesn't prove anything," she says, but her voice has lost its conviction. Maybe not by itself, but there's also this. I swipe to another screen, a text exchange I'd screenshot from her phone months ago when she'd asked me to take a photo of Emma. Messages between her and David discussing meeting times, with one particularly damning message about how much he missed their time together. Jessica's breathing becomes shallow. "You went through my phone? My emails? What kind of person does that?" "I didn't go looking for this, Jessica. You left breadcrumbs everywhere. And once I noticed one thing, I started seeing all of it. The timeline of your pregnancy never made sense." She grabs the counter for support. "Claire, please, this isn't what?" Tom's voice cuts through the kitchen. Jessica and I both freeze. Tom stands in the doorway, his face unreadable. I hadn't heard him approach over our heated exchange. Tom, Jessica gasps. How long have you been standing there? Long enough, he says quietly. His eyes move from Jessica to me. What's this about David from marketing? Jessica lunges toward him, grabbing his arm. Tom, she's making things up. Claire is jealous of our family and she's trying to cause problems. Tom gently removes her hand. I want to hear what Claire has to say. Jessica's eyes fill with tears. You can't seriously believe this. She's lying. I take a deep breath. I hadn't planned for Tom to overhear, but maybe this is better. Tom, I think you need to ask Jessica about Emma's paternity. The timing doesn't add up. Tom's gaze hardens as he turns to Jessica. Is that true? Is there something I should know about Emma? Of course not, Jessica cries, tears streaming down her face now. Emma is your daughter. Claire is trying to destroy our family. Then explain the Cabo trip, I say quietly. Explain the hotel receipts. Explain why Emma has blonde hair and blue eyes when neither of you do. Tom's face pales. What hotel receipts? I hesitate, then hand him my phone. He scrolls through the evidence I've collected. The hotel bookings, the text messages, the photos from Cabo that clearly show Jessica couldn't have been pregnant when she claimed to be. These could be faked, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. They're not, I reply softly, and you know it, Tom. The dates, the timeline, none of it adds up. Jessica crumples against the counter. Tom, please, don't listen to her. When were you going to tell me? Tom asks, his voice breaking. Were you ever going to tell me? There's nothing to tell, Jessica insists, but her eyes betray her. Tom turns to me. You said David from marketing? The guy who got promoted to creative director last year? I nod. Blonde hair, blue eyes, just like Emma's. Jessica makes a strangled sound. This is insane. You can't possibly believe. A DNA test would settle it, I say quietly. The kitchen falls silent. Patricia appears in the doorway, concern etched across her face. What's going on in here? We can hear you from the living room. Tom looks from Jessica to me, then back to his wife. I think we need to go home, Jessica. We have a lot to talk about. Jessica's face crumples. Tom, please, don't do this. Claire is lying. Then you have nothing to worry about, he says, his voice hollow. But I think I deserve the truth, don't you? Patricia steps forward. What is happening? Claire, what have you done? Before I can answer, Nick appears behind his mother. His eyes meet mine, questioning. I can see he's torn between family loyalty and standing by me. Nick, Jessica pleads. Tell your wife to stop this. Tell her she's wrong. Nick looks at me. Claire? I stand my ground. I didn't want it to come out like this, but I'm not going to apologize for telling the truth. Tom turns away, heading toward the living room. I'm getting Emma. We're leaving. Jessica follows him, begging, pleading. Patricia gives me a look of pure hatred before following them. Nick stays behind, his expression unreadable. Was that necessary? He asks quietly. She questioned our son's paternity in front of everyone, I remind him. And she's been living a lie. Nick runs a hand through his hair. This family was already complicated, Claire. And now it's honest, I reply, or it will be. From the living room, I can hear Jessica still pleading with Tom. Patricia's voice rises in defense of her daughter. The peaceful Sunday dinner has shattered into chaos. Nick sighs deeply. We should get Mason. I think we need to go home too. As we gather our things, I wonder if I've done the right thing. The truth was bound to come out eventually. Family secrets always do. But as I watch Tom carrying Emma to the car, his face a mask of pain, I realize that sometimes the aftermath of truth is messier than the lie. The silence in the car is deafening as Nick drives us home from his mother's house. Mason sleeps peacefully in his car seat, blissfully unaware of the family implosion he just witnessed. I stare out the window, replaying the scene in my head over and over. You didn't have to do it like that, Nick finally says, his knuckles white against the steering wheel. How exactly should I have done it? I ask quietly. Jessica accused our son of not being yours in front of everyone. Was I supposed to just smile and pass the potatoes? Nick sighs heavily. I know what Jessica said was wrong, but this is going to tear my family apart. Jessica did that, not me, I say. Though the conviction in my voice wavers slightly, the look on Tom's face haunts me, that moment when understanding dawned and his world collapsed. Nick pulls into our driveway but doesn't turn off the engine. My mom just called. She wants me to come back. Without you. My stomach drops. And what did you tell her? That I'm going home with my wife and son, he says, but I can hear the conflict in his voice. But Claire, this isn't over. By Monday morning, my phone has exploded with texts. Patricia has sent a series of increasingly hostile messages, culminating in, "You've always been jealous of Jessica. I hope you're happy now that you've destroyed her marriage." Jessica's texts swing wildly between rage and pleading. "How could you do this to me?" Followed by, "Please help me fix this." Tom won't even look at Emma. The only person I haven't heard from is Tom. Nick comes into the kitchen as I'm feeding Mason. Jessica just called. Tom is demanding a DNA test. I nod, unsurprised. And she's refusing. Nick runs a hand through his hair, says it's an insult to even ask. That's because she knows what it will show, I say. Nick leans against the counter. My mom wants us to come over tonight. She says we need to discuss this as a family. By we, she means everyone but me, right? I ask, already knowing the answer. Claire, Nick starts, but I cut him off. It's fine. Go. Someone needs to stay with Mason anyway. Nick returns from Patricia's house just after 10, his expression grim. He drops onto the couch beside me, exhaustion etched in every line of his face. That bad? I ask. Worse, he stares at the ceiling. Mom spent the entire time talking about how you've always had it out for Jessica, how you've been looking for ways to hurt her since you joined the family. I bite back my immediate retort. And Jessica? Kept crying, saying Emma is definitely Tom's, that you're making everything up. He turns to look at me. Tom wasn't there. He's staying at a hotel. Did you stand up for me at all? I ask, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. Nick's silence is answer enough. 3 days later, I'm grocery shopping with Mason when my phone rings. It's Tom. Jessica agreed to the test, he says without preamble. We did it yesterday. I adjust Mason in the shopping cart. That's good, I think. I didn't believe you at first. Tom continues, his voice hollow. I kept telling myself there had to be another explanation, but then I started looking at the dates myself. My trips to Chicago, the late nights she was supposedly working, Emma's birth date. Tom, I'm sorry, I say, and I mean it. I know, he pauses. The results come back in 3 days. Jessica keeps saying I'm going to feel like an idiot when they show I'm the father. And if they don't? I ask gently. Then I don't know what happens next. Sunday dinner is canceled the following weekend. Nick tells me Patricia claims she has a migraine, but we both know the real reason. No one wants to sit around the table pretending everything is normal while waiting for a DNA test to potentially shatter their family. Instead, Nick and I take Mason to the park. As I watch Nick push our son on the baby swing, his face lighting up at Mason's giggles, I feel a pang of guilt. Did I do the right thing? Should I have kept quiet? Let Jessica's lie stand? My phone buzzes with a text from Tom. Results came in early. Can we meet? Tom looks like he hasn't slept in days when he meets me at a coffee shop near our neighborhood. His eyes are bloodshot, his usually neat red hair disheveled. It's confirmed, he says, sliding an envelope across the table. I'm not Emma's father. Even though I expected this, hearing it confirmed makes my stomach twist. Don't be. I needed to know. He stares into his untouched coffee. Jessica finally admitted everything after seeing the results. She's been having an affair with David for almost a year. He's married too, with kids. I reach across the table and squeeze his hand. What are you going to do? I don't know. His voice cracks. The thing is, I love Emma. She's still my daughter in every way that matters. I've been there since the beginning. Of course she is, I say firmly. Biology isn't everything. Tom looks up, his eyes wet. Jessica's blaming you for all of this. Says if you had minded your own business, we could have been happy. Living a lie isn't happiness, I say gently. No, he agrees, but ignorance sometimes feels a lot like bliss. When I get home, Nick is waiting. Tom called me, he says. Told me about the results. I nod, setting my purse down. It's what I expected. My mother is devastated. She says you've torn the family apart. Nick, you know that's not fair. He sighs, shoulders slumping. I know, but this is my sister we're talking about, my niece. And this is our son, she questioned. I remind him, our family she tried to hurt first. Nick paces the living room. Jessica wants to talk to you. She says you're the only one who can help her convince Tom to forgive her. I laugh incredulously. Are you serious? After everything she's done, she expects me to help her? She's desperate, Nick says. Tom's talking about divorce, about fighting for partial custody of Emma even though she's not biologically his. I shake my head. I can't fix this for her, Nick, and honestly, I'm not sure it should be fixed. Tom deserves better. Nick sits beside me, taking my hand. I know you did what you thought was right, but our family will never be the same. It wasn't right before, I say quietly. It was just quieter. From the nursery, Mason begins to cry. Nick and I look at each other, the weight of what's happened hanging between us. Whatever comes next, at least our foundation isn't built on lies. I squeeze Nick's hand before getting up to tend to our son. Family secrets always come out eventually. Better on our terms than someone else's. 2 days after the DNA test results, Jessica shows up at my door. Her eyes are red-rimmed, mascara smudged beneath them. She looks like she hasn't slept in days. Claire, please, she says when I open the door. I need to talk to you. I glance back at Mason and his bouncer, happily kicking his feet. Now's not a good time. It's never going to be a good time. Jessica's voice cracks. Tom moved out yesterday. He's staying at the Marriott downtown. He won't even look at Emma. Part of me wants to shut the door in her face, but something in her expression stops me. This isn't the confident Jessica who's always had everything handed to her. This is someone broken. Fine. 5 minutes. I step aside to let her in. Jessica immediately goes to Mason, kneeling beside his bouncer. Hi, sweet boy, she coos, her voice wobbling. Mason gives her a toothless grin, oblivious to the tension. What do you want, Jessica? I ask, crossing my arms. She stands, wiping at her eyes. I need your help. Tom will listen to you. He respects you. You want me to convince Tom to forgive you for lying about Emma's paternity for 8 months? I can't keep the incredulity from my voice. It wasn't like that, she insists. It was one time. A mistake. David and I. It happened during that conference in Seattle when Tom and I were fighting about having kids. One time? I raise an eyebrow. Jessica, the timeline doesn't add up. The hotel receipts I found weren't from Seattle. She collapses onto my couch, head in her hands. Fine. It wasn't just once, but I ended it as soon as I found out I was pregnant. And you just assumed the baby was David's, not even considering it could be Tom's? Jessica looks up, her face flushed. I knew it couldn't be Tom's. We hadn't been intimate in months before I got pregnant. He was always traveling. We were barely speaking. The admission hangs in the air between us. At least she's being honest now. Tom deserves better than this, I say finally. I know. Jessica's voice is barely audible, but Emma doesn't deserve to lose her father. Tom is the only dad she's ever known. That's not fair, Jessica. You can't use Emma to manipulate him. I'm not. She stands abruptly. I made a terrible mistake. I was lonely and stupid, and David made me feel wanted when Tom was always gone. But I love my husband, and he loves Emma. I sigh, bouncing Mason gently when he starts to fuss. What exactly do you expect me to do? Just talk to him. Tell him people make mistakes. Tell him Emma needs him. And what about David? I ask. Does he know Emma is his? Jessica pales. No, at least, I never told him. But after the DNA test, he confronted David at work yesterday. Oh my God, I stare at her. What happened? David denied everything at first. Then Tom showed him the test results. Jessica wraps her arms around herself. David's wife was there. She heard everything. I can't even imagine the fallout. Jessica, this is beyond me. You've created a mess that affects 2 marriages, 2 families. I know. Tears stream down her face now. But you're the only one who might be able to help. Patricia just keeps telling me Tom will come around and that I should just deny everything. Of course she would. Patricia has always enabled Jessica's worst behavior. I'll think about it, I say finally, but I'm not promising anything. Jessica nods, looking relieved. Thank you. That's all I'm asking. After she leaves, I call Nick at work. Your sister just came by. What did she want? His voice is tight. She wants me to talk to Tom, convince him to forgive her. Nick sighs heavily. And will you? I don't know. But there's something else. Tom confronted David at his office yesterday. His wife was there. Jesus. Nick is quiet for a moment. This just keeps getting worse. I meet Tom for coffee the next day. He looks even more exhausted than before, with dark circles under his eyes and his normally neat red hair sticking up in places. Jessica came to see you, he says as soon as I sit down. She did. I'm guessing she went to you after. Tom nods, staring into his coffee. She's desperate. Keeps saying we can work through this. That Emma needs me. What do you want, Tom? I ask gently. I don't know. His voice breaks. I love Emma. When I look at her, I don't see David. I just see my daughter. But every time I look at Jessica now, all I can think about is her lying to my face for months. I reach across the table and squeeze his hand. No one would blame you for walking away. Everyone would blame me, he corrects. Patricia already told me I'm being selfish, that a real man would forgive his wife and raise the child as his own. That sounds exactly like Patricia. What about David? I ask cautiously. Tom's expression darkens. He tried to deny it at first. Then I showed him the test results. His wife was there for a lunch date. He runs a hand through his hair. It was a scene. She started screaming, threw her drink at him. And what did David say about Emma? He said he had no idea Jessica was pregnant with his child. Claims she told him it was mine. Tom's laugh is bitter. Then he had the nerve to say he wants to be part of his daughter's life now. My stomach drops. What does that mean? He's talking about custody rights. His lawyer called mine yesterday. I sit back, stunned. Can he do that? Apparently, he's the biological father after all. Tom's voice is hollow, which means I could lose Emma completely. The unfairness of it all hits me like a physical blow. Tom, who's loved and cared for Emma since birth, could lose her to a man who didn't even know she existed until days ago. What does Jessica say about this? She's panicking. Says she never wanted David involved. Tom shakes his head. But she created this situation. And now David's threatening a lawsuit if she doesn't agree to shared custody. This is insane, I murmur. The worst part? Tom looks up, his eyes wet. David's claiming Jessica's been having an affair with him the entire time. Says they've been meeting at hotels regularly, even after Emma was born. My blood runs cold. Is that true? I don't know. Jessica denies it. Tom's hands are shaking, but she's lied about everything else. How can I believe anything she says now? I think about the hotel receipts I found. The text messages, they weren't all from before Emma was born. Tom, I'm so sorry, is all I can say. He nods, wiping at his eyes. His wife left him, took their kids to her parents' house, and now he wants mine too. As I drive home, I can't help feeling responsible for all of this. If I had kept quiet, would Tom be better off not knowing? Would Emma? But then I remember Jessica questioning Mason's paternity at Sunday dinner, the smug look on her face as she tried to hurt me. No. The truth needed to come out. Family secrets always surface eventually. When I get home, Nick is already there, sitting at the kitchen table with a strange expression. "What's wrong?" I ask, setting my purse down. "David's wife called me," he says. "Apparently Jessica gave her my number." My stomach drops. What did she want? To tell me that according to David the affair never ended. Nick looks up at me, his face unreadable. He says they were together as recently as 2 weeks ago. I sink into the chair across from him. Do you believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore. Nick runs a hand through his hair. But if it's true, Jessica lied to all of us again, even after the DNA test. The house is quiet except for Mason's gentle cooing from his playpen. Our family may be intact, but the ripple effects of Jessica's lies have only just begun. What happens now? I ask softly. Nick shakes his head. I don't know, but nothing will ever be the same. It's been 3 weeks since the DNA test results, and I've never seen a family implode so completely. Tom filed for divorce last Tuesday. I was with Jessica when the papers arrived. I'd gone over to help with Emma since Jessica seemed to be falling apart. The courier handed her the envelope, and she just stood in the doorway staring at it for what felt like an eternity. I knew it was coming, she whispered, her hands shaking as she finally opened it, but seeing it in writing, I didn't know what to say. Part of me still felt responsible for triggering this cascade of revelations, but another part reminded me that Jessica had brought this on herself first with the affair, then by questioning Mason's paternity at Sunday dinner. "What are you going to do?" I asked, bouncing Emma on my hip. She gurgled happily, oblivious to the destruction swirling around her. At 8 months old, she's all chubby cheeks and those striking blue eyes, David's eyes. "Fight for full custody," Jessica said, setting the papers on the counter. "David's lawyer called again yesterday. He wants regular visitation rights. And Tom?" Jessica's face crumpled. "He wants partial custody too. Says he's been her father since birth and biology doesn't change that." She wiped at her eyes. How did I create a situation where my daughter has 3 parents fighting over her, and none of them are speaking to each other? I had no answer for that. Sunday dinner resumed last weekend, against all odds. Patricia insisted we needed to maintain family traditions despite everything. Nick thought it was a terrible idea, but his mother can be persuasive when she wants something. "We're going," he told me after hanging up the phone. "She says we need to show a united front for the family." "United front?" I laughed incredulously. "The family is in pieces, Nick." He ran a hand through his hair. "I know, but she thinks canceling Sunday dinners makes it worse. Like we're giving up." "Who's coming?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Everyone. Mom, us, Jessica, and Tom." "Tom agreed to this?" Nick nodded. Apparently he still considers himself part of the family, regardless of what happens with the divorce. "And David?" I couldn't help asking. "Jesus, no." Nick looked horrified. "Even my mother has limits." The dinner was as excruciating as expected. Patricia had set the table with her best china, as if fancy place settings could paper over the gaping wounds in her family. Jessica arrived late, her eyes red-rimmed, carrying Emma, who was dressed in an elaborate frilly outfit I'd never seen before. Tom was already there, sitting stiffly in the living room, making forced conversation with Nick about the football season. When Jessica walked in, the room went silent. Tom's eyes immediately went to Emma, his expression a complicated mix of love and pain. "You can hold her," Jessica said softly. "She misses you." Tom hesitated, then stood and took Emma from Jessica's arms. The baby immediately grabbed for his face, a familiar gesture that made Tom's eyes well up. Patricia bustled in from the kitchen. "Dinner's ready. Come sit, everyone." We arranged ourselves around the table in what felt like a bizarre parody of our normal family dinners. Patricia at the head, Nick and I on one side, Jessica and Tom on the other, with Emma in a high chair between them, like divorced parents at a child's birthday party. The conversation was painfully stilted. Patricia asked about our jobs, about the weather, about everything except the elephant in the room. Nick kept shooting me worried glances, while Jessica pushed food around her plate without eating. Tom focused entirely on feeding Emma small bites of mashed potatoes. "This is ridiculous," Jessica finally said, setting down her fork with a clatter. "We can't pretend everything's normal." Patricia's smile tightened. "We're having a nice family dinner, Jessica." "No, we're not." Jessica looked around the table. "Tom is divorcing me. David is suing for paternity rights. Claire exposed my affair to everyone. There's nothing normal about this situation." "Jessica," Patricia warned. But Jessica wasn't stopping. "I'm tired of pretending." She turned to me, her eyes suddenly clear and direct. "Claire, I owe you an apology." I nearly choked on my water. "What?" "I was horrible to you. I questioned Mason's paternity because I was projecting my own guilt. I was living a lie, and I lashed out at you because you have what I wanted, a real family, built on honesty." Jessica's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." The table fell silent. Nick reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it gently. "Thank you for saying that," I managed finally. Jessica nodded, then turned to Tom. And I'm sorry to you most of all. You deserved better than what I did. Tom stared at his plate for a long moment. I've been thinking a lot about Emma, he said finally. About what's best for her. Jessica tensed. Tom, I want to be her father, he continued. I've been her father since the day she was born. DNA doesn't change that. Patricia made a small sound of approval. That's very mature, Tom. I'm not saying I'm coming back, Tom clarified, glancing at Jessica. The divorce is still happening, but I'm going to fight for partial custody of Emma. Even though she's not biologically yours? Patricia asked, her voice gentle. Tom looked at Emma, who was happily smashing potatoes with her tiny fist. She's mine in every way that matters. Jessica was openly crying now. What about David? Tom's expression hardened. That's between you and him. But I'm not giving up my daughter without a fight. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. I kept thinking about Tom's words about how love transcends biology, about how family is defined by more than just DNA. As we were leaving, Jessica pulled me aside in the hallway. I meant what I said, she whispered. I'm sorry for everything. I studied her face, looking for the manipulative Jessica I'd known for years. Instead, I saw someone humbled, someone finally facing the consequences of her actions. We all make mistakes, I said finally. Some are just bigger than others. She nodded, tears filling her eyes again. Do you think Tom will ever forgive me? I don't know. That's not for me to say. I adjusted Mason in my arms as he started to fuss. But forgiving and forgetting are different things. And what about you? She asked. Can you forgive me for what I said about Mason? I thought about it for a moment. I'm working on it. For the family's sake. On the drive home, Nick was unusually quiet. Mason had fallen asleep in his car seat, his tiny snores the only sound breaking the silence. That was unexpected, Nick finally said. Jessica apologizing like that. Do you think she meant it? I asked. Nick sighed. I think she's hit rock bottom and is finally seeing things clearly. Whether it lasts, he shrugged. I stared out the window at the passing streetlights. Tom surprised me too, fighting for custody of Emma even though she's not biologically his. He loves her, Nick said simply. He's been her dad for 8 months. That bond doesn't just disappear because of a DNA test. We fell silent again, both lost in our own thoughts. As we pulled into our driveway, Nick turned to me. You know what I keep thinking about? How easily this could have gone differently. If Jessica had never questioned Mason's paternity that night, would you have exposed her secret? I considered the question carefully. Eventually, yes, the truth was bound to come out sometime. Family secrets always do. Nick nodded slowly. I guess that's the lesson here, isn't it? Secrets don't stay buried. I looked back at Mason, still sleeping peacefully. No, they don't. And they usually cause more damage the longer they stay hidden. As we carried our son inside, I thought about Jessica and Tom and Emma, about the complicated mess their lives had become because of one lie that grew into many. I thought about David, suddenly discovering he had a daughter he never knew about. I thought about how a single moment of truth at a Sunday dinner had unraveled everything. Family secrets always surface eventually. The only question is whether we're prepared for the aftermath when they do.